I don't have anything to include, so we'll go ahead and let you take over there, Mr. Stamper.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon and good morning. My name is Chuck Stamper. I am with the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. My official title is Extension Special Projects Coordinator with the 4-H Youth Development Program. So my role is to work on specific topic areas within the state and make sure that our extension agents who work with 4-H have the resources and training materials that they need. So one of my areas, a couple of my areas that I work with are civic education, work and life readiness, and now also health and well-being. And so today I'm going to be talking to you all about a program that we have worked on over the past couple of years, and we wanted to make sure that you were aware of it, and you were so after today, and I was excited because at first I thought, okay, how am I going to get everything in? And I thought I might have like 15 minutes, but I can actually go through the whole program with you today, and that'll be good. And at the end of the program, I want to make sure that I give you my email address. And if you are interested in getting a set of these books that I'm going to be talking about, all that you'll need to do is send me an email and says, hey, shoot me a set of these, and we will get them in the mail to you. Beth, Quentin, I hope that's okay to offer that. And I don't know how you um, track any of that, so I would turn around and send you any information that we go over. I think Beth actually has been in on some of our planning meetings over the past when we were first trying to develop these training materials, and so we're very pleased to be able to offer these to you. Let me give you a little bit of background about myself so you'll think that I know what I'm doing. I am 34 years with the Cooperative Extension Service. I started out as a 4-H agent in Floyd County, Kentucky. I stayed there for about 15 years. I worked very closely with our Friskies there. And we did a lot of wonderful collaborative programs together. And back in those times, that was when they had first started, and so we were all trying to figure it out. And so in the early '90s, um, and so we did a lot of great programs together. So I've always seen the benefit and the value of the Friskies. After about 15 years in the county, I took a state level position. And so I've been there for about 17 or 18 years now. And so my role now is not to work directly with the kids as much. And now my job is to work with the adults who work with kids. And so I am my research, my doctorate is in instructional technology and in educational design, uh, but my research is in brain-based learning. And so how do we get our kids engaged now? And so that's what I'm hoping that some of these materials will help you with. What I would ask, if you could let me know, is how many of you, just for a raised hand or emoji of a raised hand or whatever, how many of you work with Cooperative Extension Service in your counties? Okay, all right. So if you don't and you would like to, also send me an email and I will get you connected with the people that um, that that are in the offices, and I will help you make that connection. So let's talk a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen as we begin. Before I start, though, does anyone have any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything like that? Please unmute if you would like to. Or Beth, Quentin, if you all could check the chat box in case I miss something that someone needs.
We'll keep an eye on the chat, but I also wanted to just let you know on the exit survey, they can put their email address, and I have a question on there about whether or not they want to receive more information. So I can send that, those results to you afterwards, and you can check up on those emails.
Okay, awesome. All right. So let's go ahead. I want to share my screen here, and you all can make sure that I'm actually sharing it. Okay, do you see are you all okay seeing my screen? Okay, all right, awesome. By the way, will let you know that we just received an email yesterday that we are losing our dean of the College of Ag, Food, and Environment after 20 years. She was one of the first female deans of the College of Agriculture in any land grant university. And so we are very pleased that she is able to retire and still, able to just thrive. But we are definitely going to miss Dean Nancy Cox. So if you know anybody that wants to apply for the College of Ag, Food, and Environment, let me know. We did get a gift from this family, the Martin Gatton family, of $100 million. And that is the largest gift ever given to a land grant university in one time. So we are, I was hoping they'd give it to me as part of my salary increase, but that didn't happen either. So, oh well. So, all right. So let's go ahead and get started here. So what I want to do with you for the next few minutes is just go over the situation, talk about the process that we took, talk about the resources that we developed, and then I want to talk about how maybe you could collaborate with your extension offices in your county, and then I want to get your ideas about any other training or facilitation that I could help you with. So now this is what I'd like for you to do. All right. So I always like to make sure that our brain is energized and ready to go with our discussion. So can someone unmute and tell me what this looks like to you?
Looks like an eye.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Yes, that's probably what most people would think that it was. So this is my challenge to you. For the next 2 minutes, I'm going to give you the opportunity to create something using this diagram, but it cannot be an eye. Okay? I want you to create something using the diagram you see in front of you, but it cannot be an eye. Does everybody understand that? Okay, you're going to have about 2 minutes to do that. And I'm not looking for Van Gogh. Don't worry about that. I would start singing the Jeopardy music in the background, but you all don't want to. I was telling Quentin, I've been fighting allergies for 3 weeks, and I'm still not not back to full my voice. I think we have a golfer in the group. Okay, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. And I would like to ask when we're ready, if you don't care to show us some of your wonderful work. If somebody would like to volunteer to hold up their piece and do that. Eric, can you explain to us what that is?
I went with the solar system. It looked like there was just one route around the sun, so I just kind of added the others. Do some planets in there, probably out of place.
Okay, awesome. That is great. Someone else? Catherine, can you unmute and tell us what that is, Catherine?
It's breakfast.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Oh.
that is cool. Okay, awesome. Anyone else?
Looks like Jody has one as well.
Oh, I went with the same theme. I had a planet circling the sun.
Okay, awesome. Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay, all right. Why do you think that I asked you to do that? Why do you think that that was something to get us engaged, our brains engaged?
I'd say just a little more in-depth thinking.
Okay, all right. Yes.
We
Totally.
could all be looking at the same thing, but see something different.
Exactly. And we work with so many kids and families in our counties across the Commonwealth. And even though this is the same diagram, every one of you had something different. So you had a different point of view from it. Okay. So that's the same thing that we're working with right now when we're working with kids. So we've got some of the same situations, but every family that we work with will see that situation in a different way. So how do we try as best as we can to capture or to offer educational programs and supports for the kids and families that we're working with? All right. Awesome. Thank you all very much. Let's go ahead. So let me ask you all this. So let's think about our current situation in 2024. What's happened in the state of Kentucky over the past 6 to 8 years that we could probably consider a traumatic event?
Flooding,
Flooding.
no
Okay.
doubt, flooding.
Are you in East Kentucky?
I'm in Pike County. You don't get any further east.
Okay. All right.
We had somebody in the chat mention COVID.
COVID. Right.
I know when I was a coordinator, we experienced tornadoes. I know, and there's been some throughout the state as well.
Yep. So just think about this in the past 6 to 8 years. All of these are compounding on what's happening in our kids' lives. We had horrific tornadoes in the west, and now throughout the east and central. Okay, a few years ago. Then we had the horrific flooding in the east, and then we had COVID, which created this where we were all underground basically for 2 years. In addition to that, and I'm not say anything political. It's just the way that the situation is. Because of the changes in the regulations on coal production, a lot of our families in West Kentucky and East Kentucky were completely changed because of economically because of that situation. And then, of course, we still have problems with drug misuse and abuse. So all of those things have compounded on our kids and families in Kentucky. And so we realized this when we were seeing a rise in the number of attempted suicides in Kentucky. So right now in the state of Kentucky, suicide, as it is nationally, suicide is the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 25. Y'all, that's kind of scary. I mean, 10. I mean, just imagine the thought of a 10-year-old, so it's 10 to 25, the second. And it fluctuates there, second and third a lot of times. But you know what the first one is? Accidental death. So if you remove accidental death, then attempted suicide is the leading cause of death. And I know that different surveys and different machines will tell you different things, but you will notice that suicide is up there all the time. And so what we realized is that we had to continue to work on our mental health resources in Kentucky. So we brought our administrators together, our professional staff, our mentors, our collaborators across the state to work on developing a resource for 4-H families to use during times of high stress and traumatic events. So our authors for the resource were I'll just list those here. Serendipity, I know that sounds kind of interesting, but that is a company that did all of the educational resources for the state of Louisiana's public school system after the hurricanes about 10 to 12 years ago. And so we wanted to bring in people who had the abilities to write these curriculum. So what I want to do right now is I want to stop sharing this screen, and I want to change and show you what we developed. We'll have to go back and do it again. So what we developed was a resource guide for families that was called Youth Strong. Can you all see this? Okay, all right. Helping youth and families in times of disaster and stress. So basically, it is a booklet that we Kentuckyize it. So we made sure that the specific resources that are in it, and I'll tell you about those are Kentucky, and so. But what we wanted to do is develop a resource that our 4-H agents could use with collaborators such as resource centers and other public serving organizations within the counties. Excuse me. And so what we worked with and developed this booklet, and so it is in 5 different chapters or 5 different sections. Now, it's not a very thick book, and so, but what we ask that people, these are for adults to use with kids as they're working on. So it's not something that you just hand out to kids. It's a booklet that you can use to distribute it and or to pull out lessons as you need to. Now, do we charge for it? No, we don't charge for it. Like I said, if you are interested after going through this today, I would be glad to send you, and I call it a classroom set because that's from my teaching days, and of about 30 booklets that you can actually go through your volunteers with in your community, and use this material. So I wanted to go through the 5 sections really quick and just highlight those, and so that you would be able to see them. But the first one, as you can see up here, the first section is just introductory. So we want to make sure, we wanted when we developed this, we wanted to make sure that someone, a lay person in the community could take this, read over it, work with someone who had been through this training, and use it. So that's how these are written. So they're not written at a high level. It's not written at a collegiate level. It's written at a very basic level. The activities are very basic, but they're validated so that there are things that you can use. So after the introductory section, then it goes into to making sure we understand the different way that youth may respond to a disaster. Then we go into actual strategies that you can use and activities that you can work overall on with young people that you're working with and families. And then we also really wanted to focus on those coping strategies, so that is what we have realized is leading to our young people and the heightened sense of distress, is that we have lost, especially after COVID, but we've lost that ability to manage or cope with high stress situations. And then, of course, we have a lot of additional resources that you can use. So what I wanted to do is just highlight some of the, and the reason I wanted to show you these pictures is because I'm not with you in person, and how boring would it be if I just sat here and told you about it and not show you what they actually look like. So but I wanted to show you some actual pieces that are in the book. Of course, I have to is that the same one? No, I think I just shared the same one. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay. All right. I apologize about that. So I want to, in the booklet, what we decided to make sure to do, we wanted to make it as easy and useful as possible with our volunteers and the people, our educators who might be using the book. And if you'll notice in the left-hand corner at the top, there's a star that has an A in it. So anytime that you would see that page, that is something that is for an older teen or an adult that you're working with, and so, or an older elementary student or an adult. So that's what we and the facilitator can modify these at any time if they would like to. But one of the first activities that we do is recognizing what stress is and what are some of the stressors that we might encounter. So I want you to look at the bottom. Can everybody see the bottom of the screen where I'm at right now? So this is a joint activity. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we had individual activities, group activities. So this is what we call a joint activity, which is it's a discussion starter for anyone that you're working with. So I'd like for you all to look at this list, and in your communities that you live in right now, what are some of these that you have seen over the past few years in a higher rate than usual?
I can speak on whenever I was a coordinator not too long ago. I feel like there was a lot of children losing family members, even parents, and also moving. A lot of children changing schools constantly and then coming back. I feel like that is an ongoing thing.
I work with a group of teachers in a county in East Kentucky, and we are I'm coaching them on a new program that they're doing in the schools called Letters. It's a language program, and they have mentioned that very same thing about such a high level of transitions and absenteeism that they're seeing still. Anyone else? So what we wanted to do is if you were with a group of people and you threw this out and did that, you want to make sure that they realize what stress is, and then also want to look at the differences in stress. So we have two major types of stress. We have one that's called eustress, which is eustress. So that's eustress, and that's positive stress. So those are just everyday things that occur. We have to have positive stress, and that's actually what keeps us, actually moving and walking and thinking. So that's positive stress. And then what we have on the other end of the spectrum is distress. Distress is when we are not taught or we are not able, we don't have the skills to manage all of the negative stressors that might occur, like some of these that are down below. And what happens is, if this is the brain that we have, that we're working with, the whole part of the brain is protection of the body. That's the only purpose of the brain, is to protect the body that it's in. And so what happens is that when a young person or an adult gets to the point where they have too much distress, then their brains basically just shut down, and they can't accept any new material, and it takes a long time for this feeling of distress to go away. So have y'all ever worked with a group of kids that you notice that some of them are just more, they just have that level of distress, and or even adults for that matter, and they have that level of distress that it just keeps them from doing anything? All right, I want to go over a couple more of the activities with you. So, another one, if you notice this one it has the A in there, so it's more of a guide for the adult or the peer to work with the kids. And so it is geared toward more for them to read and then use that material with other people. And so it gives them how ways of self-care for adults who are working with kids to actually be involved with them and understand their own stress level. I'm going to go down here. One of the things that we really stress is the importance of making sure that when we are doing educational programs for our kids, that we meet them where they are as much as possible. Now, we all know that we can't be everything for everybody, but one of the things that we can do is recognize, based on research on brain development, is the fact that kids respond better to pulse teaching. Okay, PULSE. So pulse teaching. So what that means is that if you've got a young person, let's say in intermediate grades, third, fourth, fifth, in those types, they should never have more than 15 minutes at a time of direct instruction. And then the next age group is at middle school, and you can increase it by about 5 minutes. Then you go up to high school and you can increase it up to about 30. And then even as adults, we should never have more than 45 minutes of direct instruction before that we have some sort of a break. And so what we want to make sure that we're doing is giving those brain energizers or those brain breaks during that time. So one of the ways that we do this is we have listed in here these different types of activities that you can do with the kids. One of them is belly breathing, and then of course, if you notice down at the bottom, we also have included some links so that you can go and get even other resources for the kids that you're working with. So this is a fun one, and I'd like for us to do this all together. So can you all turn your cameras on, or if you feel comfortable doing that, I'd like for us to do this one together. So this is a brain break that we use, and it's a fun one for the kids, but it also gives them that opportunity for them to just relax and allow that information to process that you're working on. Another thing is, if you are in a high stress situation, this would be a good idea for the kids to to be able to take a break and to calm down a little bit. So this is called pizza breathing. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to hold your hands out like you are getting ready for someone to lay a piece of pizza in your hand. Okay. All right. So Beth, you're the first person that I see. What's your favorite type of pizza?
I like all the stuff.
You like all of it? Okay. All right.
Yes.
That's me.
Supreme.
That's me too. Supreme. Okay. All right. Someone else want to tell us what you like to do, what your favorite type of pizza is?
Cheese.
Cheese. Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, and so what we do is this. So you hold your hands out and you tell them to imagine that someone has placed their favorite piece of pizza on a plate in their hand. Okay. All right. And what they're going to do, so you have their arms outstretched, okay, in front a little bit, and then you tell them to bring it in and then down a little bit, and then take a deep breath, and they're smelling that their favorite pizza. All right. So we want them to take a deep, calm breath, hold it, and then exhale as they put the pizza back out in front of them. Okay. Then we tell them, okay, great. Now you've got your next piece of pizza, and you do that same thing over. So you bring it back, you take the deep breath, hold it, and then you release slowly. Okay. All right. Now, kids will love this. You know, they love doing activities, but this is a teaching moment. For one thing, this is done to calm their senses, okay, to calm them down. Another thing is it's to make sure that there is movement as you're working the brain. And so we've learned that when we're processing new information, if we're moving the brain and moving our body, not moving the brain, but moving the body as we're doing these activities, then that will increase the brain interaction with them. Okay. All right. So you do that 3 or 4 times, and you can do it at the wherever you think it's best during your lessons. Here's another one. I don't know if I got it down there, but it's called square breathing here. It's an excellent one to do. It was actually developed by the military for releasing stress during during high stressful situations. So anyway, these are just different types of activities that you can do with your kids. And so we also, like I said, we also want to make sure that we wanted people to understand the why behind. So many times we get these activities and we get these resources, and there's no why behind it. You know, it's just like, well, here's a free resource, use it like you can. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to make sure that you and the people that are working with the kids understand why that you need to do these types of activities. So if you look at, if you look at the definition of resilient, and I would even change that title from in that one sentence. It says some youth are resilient. Well, all kids are resilient, but they just have different levels of that. And I want you to imagine what resilient means. So if you had a rubber band and you pull that rubber band, what happens to it most of the time? When you quit pulling it, it goes back together. Okay. All right. And so that's the concept of resiliency that a neurotypical young person would have. Okay. But a kid or a family member who is in a high stress or distress mode, sometimes that doesn't go back, and sometimes it'll actually pop, and that rubber band will break. And that's what we don't want to happen. Okay. We want them to recover from each of their instances of distress. And so, that's why we want to make sure that we are teaching them strategies to be able to manage high stress situation. All right. So, one thing that we wanted to make sure that you also knew in the book is that the new number to call for suicide prevention is just 988. The older one, and we're still seeing the 1-800 number on some posters around the schools or in the communities. All right, so that is still active. But what happens is that when you call that number, it actually will go directly and be patched into 988. Okay, so that is still active, but what we're trying to do is get people to call that 988 number. Now, let's say that a young person doesn't want to call that number, then they can actually text a message to that number, and someone will reply back to them. and they will communicate by texting. All right. So it's not just the phone number. It's the connecting. All right. So I'm gonna stop sharing that right now and just want to bring it up and see if you have any questions about what I've covered so far. All right. So why do we need this? Another reason why we need this, I want to go over this information with you. And I've got too many screens open is my problem. So let me figure out where. There we go. Let's try this. Some of you, how many of you have heard the term SEL, social emotional learning? I think most of us have. One thing that I would suggest that you do, if you are in a very conservative area of the state, don't use that term. Okay, there's a lot of political jargon. There's a lot of backlash sometimes for people who use that term in very conservative areas, and you know, maybe it's just not best that you use that term, because the term's not important. What's important is the concepts that's taught in social emotional learning. Castle is one of the first groups to ever do validated research on the importance of social emotional learning. They've been around for years, and so I wanted to make sure that you were given this resource as well. And so this is their model that they have developed. So and they have 5 different areas of social and emotional learning that they focus on: self-awareness, self-management, decision making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And then they see around the circle here, they give suggestions about where the young people would get interaction with these different things. So, you know, whether they're learning in a positive way or a not so positive way, these are where they're going to be learning these skills or not learning these skills. You know, so in the classroom, in their schools, with their family, in their communities. And so this just gives you a visual representation of how all of this social and emotional learning goes in. If you want to look at the definition that they give there, social emotional learning is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible, caring decisions. And so what we're trying, you know, all of us who are educators with families and youth, you know, that's our goal, is to make sure that we want our kids to thrive, and we want to make sure that they are in a positive trajectory for the years that we are working with them. And so I wanted to make sure that you all have this resource here, and I can send that to Beth. I don't know, Beth, if you all have that or seen this, but I can send you this link as well. So I guess my question now is, first of all, do you think this is a resource that you think that you could use in your county? and I would like some ideas of how that you see. I can give you some thoughts of how people are using them now, and so but what I'd like to do is just ask and see if any of you have any ideas about where you think you could use this in your county or in your program. Yes, Eric.
Um, I've been winding up for a minute to start a grandparents group in our area. I've seen I've ordered the pasta curriculum and stuff, and I have some other resources there. And I'm trying to really shape what that looks like for my community. And even though grandparents group seems like a good backbone to start to distribute information, I could see these issues being brought up a lot, or barriers or things like that, to definitely plug this in there to have a big portion of that in there. So I do see it being brought up. Whether they realize it's a bigger scale to it that they can help themselves with, that's we'll see. But definitely feel like that's something that if it's right in there, if it's right in our backyard happening, and we're seeing it, depending on what kind of tragedies are going on. But definitely seems like a place to insert right there.
Awesome. So I will tell you this, we have 4-H agents who are working with their volunteers in their community, and they are working with in like after school groups. So they'll do some of these lessons. They'll pick and choose what's best for that time. And so they'll work on these and do some of these discussions with them, or some of these activities with them during those after school hours, or in those club meetings.
Dr. Stamper, I just want to also point out, we are held to the standard of needing evaluations for our programming. So I don't know if you want to touch base on that, but to my understanding, there is an evaluation that you can use after implementing this, correct?
Yes, we do, and I can send you that link as well. We've got it set up through Qualtrics, but we can also create or we have the paper form as well, and so it will allow you to gather that information as well.
Perfect. And I was just thinking a great way to use this would even be your big events. If you wanted to share some of this information, just they can take it and go, just for the adults to know, how to help their children or whoever they're taking care of through these times of stress. So there's so many different ways that this information could be utilized.
Yeah, it's a really good piece. I mean, I think it's got a whole lot of stuff in there, but you don't have to use all of it. It's you use it where you find that it's most effective. Of course, I'm sorry you couldn't have it right there in front of you to look at so that you can do that. What we do ask is that you make sure that you look through the whole thing before you start working with it, so that we want to make sure that you understand the different, what's actually in there when you get a chance to look at it.
Sometimes we have students, like we do have therapists that come to our school-based therapists that come, but I know especially sometimes at the beginning of the year, we may have waiting lists, or we may have a time period of where someone wants to get into school-based therapy, but maybe it's not the beginning of the year. Maybe we don't have an opening just yet, but that might be something that would be nice to be able to give one of those parents who are kind of in that transition period before they can see a therapist. And then maybe it's also something the school-based therapist can also give out to their clients.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to use it. think I heard that even counselors are working with their Friskies and doing sessions in different grades at different times and
Yeah.
going through the curriculum that way too. So,
Yeah,
get
some of us
creative.
do have small groups.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, all right. So I will offer this, Beth. I don't know. I think that we had chatted, or I someone in your department I had talked with about. I don't know. Are you all still receiving training on mental health first aid?
Yeah, different variations, different ways.
Okay.
Not, like there's not a universal way that we're doing it or anything, but a lot of Friskies that are, especially in the youth service centers, they are doing a lot of mental health first aid stuff.
So one thing that I am certified to do is give the training for the National Mental Health First Aid Organization. And so I focus on, there's different types of that, but I focus on the one that is geared toward adults who work with young people. So it's mental health first aid for youth is what it's called. But I will be more than, I mean, if you were having a group together somewhere of Frisky coordinators, you can do the training online. It's just really hard.
Yeah.
It's just really hard. I don't charge for this if we're collaborating. I don't use it as a money maker for me at all. All what I do is ask the organizations to pay their registration fee and their book fee. And so if that is something that you would maybe be interested in me offering some of those around the state. I don't know if you all meet regionally sometimes. It's a full day training
Okay.
with some pre-work online, but they get 8 hours of credit for it, I think.
We have regional program managers around the state, so this would be great information I can give them, and then they can get in touch with you and see how they want to utilize it. So yeah, they'll definitely love that. I know we've
Okay.
talked about getting people in there who can do that, so I will share this for sure.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I would be glad to help in any way possible. I'm typing my email address in here for anyone who wants to contact me. So Beth, so you're saying that if they check mark or whatever that they would like the materials, you'll let me know who to mail it to?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording now, and then I'm going to send you guys the approval code and the exit survey. Just put the information in there. Let's see.